As Amelia walks toward the lecture room, laughter echoed through the hall. A group of classmates suddenly stepped out, chanting mockingly, "Behold, our late beauty queen." Startled, Amelia looked around, only to see another group appear, laughing even louder. Surrounded and overwhelmed by their taunts, panic flashed across her face. Amelia turned and ran, her footsteps echoing down the hallway as the cruel laughter chased her. The full story. Desmond, a fourth-year student at Texaco University, was hurriedly sweeping the school compound in the early hours of the morning. Already dressed for class, he tried to finish the task quickly, hoping to avoid being late for his first lecture of the day. The area was quiet and deserted, but as he diligently worked, 4 guys suddenly appeared out of nowhere. "Desmond, on your knees," one of them barked. Desmond paused, looking up in confusion. "Why should I obey you?" he asked, standing his ground. Before he could react, another guy stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face, sending him staggering. "Who do you think you are to question my boss? Are you out of your mind?" As Desmond tried to steady himself, yet another member of the group approached. "The boss warned you last time, nicely, to stay away from his girl, but you didn't listen. You really think you can compete with our boss, His Excellency, Hillary?" Desmond's eyes widened in shock, but before he could say anything, the guy continued. "Today, we're giving you another warning. But this time, it'll be a lesson you won't forget." With a signal from their leader, 2 of the men lunged at Desmond. They punched and kicked him mercilessly, knocking him to the ground. Desmond tried to defend himself, but their blows were too brutal. Within moments, he was groaning in pain, barely conscious. Hillary, the so-called boss, laughed cruelly as he watched Desmond suffer. "You should have listened," Hillary said, kneeling beside Desmond's battered body. He carefully placed a piece of paper on Desmond's chest before standing up. The group of attackers burst into laughter, leaving Desmond crumpled on the ground. A short while later, Desmond found himself lying in a hospital bed, his body bruised and aching. His 2 friends, who had rushed him to the hospital, stood beside him, their faces filled with concern. "Desmond, we found a note on you," one of them said, holding up the sheet of paper. The words "Stay away from Amelia" were boldly scrawled across it. Rex, one of his friends, shook his head in disbelief. "If you survive this, man, you don't need anyone to tell you what to do next. Let go of Amelia. There are plenty of other girls on campus. It's not worth your life." Desmond lay there, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the warning pressing down on him. Jerry and Gloria were sitting comfortably in their elegant living room, discussing the latest developments in their lives. Suddenly, Amelia, their daughter, burst into the room, her face flushed with anxiety. "Dad, please, tell Hillary to stay away from me," Amelia pleaded, her voice trembling. "I don't like him, and I can never marry him." Jerry chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Amelia, my dear, you're my only daughter. Everything I do is to secure a bright future for you. Hillary is the right man for that future. He has the wealth and connections that will ensure your place in society." Gloria, who had been quietly listening, nodded in agreement. "Another lucrative contract was awarded to your father just this week, all because of you. Hillary's father is infatuated with your beauty, Amelia. He's made it clear that he wants you to marry his son, and your father and I believe it's the best path for you." Amelia sighed deeply, her frustration evident. "So his father loves my beauty, but what about my feelings? What about my mental health? You and Mom don't seem to care about that at all." Gloria smiled softly, as if Amelia's concerns were trivial. "Amelia, Darling, the love and attention you're looking for don't exist in the way you think. You'll grow to love Hillary in time, and trust me, that's all that matters. Jerry nodded in agreement. The most important thing, Amelia, is to marry someone who can provide for you and your future children. Hillary comes from a powerful family, and Chief Bobby, his father, is an international figure. We've been invited to his 55th birthday party in the United States next week, and after that, your engagement to Hillary will be announced. Everything is falling into place. Just as they were talking, Amelia's phone buzzed. She answered quickly, recognizing the caller. Hello, Sonia. Sonia's voice on the other end was filled with tension. Amelia, it's Desmond. He was attacked this morning while he was cleaning the school compound by Hillary and his friends. Amelia froze, shock written across her face. What? How could Hillary do this? He's been hurting Desmond just to keep us apart. How bad is it? Sonia's voice was urgent. It's bad, Amelia. You need to come to the hospital. He's hurt badly. I'll be on my way now. Sonia, just stay with him, and do whatever you can to help, Amelia responded, her voice shaking with emotion. As soon as Amelia hung up the phone, Jerry's face hardened. You're not going anywhere, he said firmly, his voice cold. I've already told you, I don't want to see you with that poor boy ever again. Why are you lowering yourself for someone who can't even take care of his own needs? Dad, please, Amelia begged. Desmond is a good person. He's kind, respectful, and brilliant. We're good friends, and I care about him. Please don't separate us like this. Gloria leaned forward, her tone laced with disdain. Isn't this the same boy who does menial jobs at school just to get by? Washing other students' clothes, running errands, and sweeping the compound. He's nothing but a struggling boy who can't even meet his own financial needs. How does he even manage to pay his tuition? Amelia's frustration boiled over. Mom, Dad, I need to go now. Desmond is my friend, and he's in trouble. Please, just tell Hillary to stay away from me. Without waiting for a response, Amelia turned and headed towards the door, determined to leave. But before she could reach the exit, Gloria called out, her voice icy and final. Gateman, lock the gate. No one is going in or out today. Amelia stopped in her tracks, stunned by her mother's harsh command. Mom, please, Desmond could be dying. Gloria's expression didn't change. Let him die. I don't care. Hillary is your husband, and that's final. Amelia stood there, her heart breaking, as the reality of her parents' coldness sank in. The next day, as Amelia walked onto the school campus, she once again drew everyone's gaze. Her striking beauty had always made her the center of attention, something she once enjoyed. But today, it felt different. Her father's words from the previous night echoed in her mind. How her beauty was the reason Hillary's father had vowed to marry her off to his son. The thought weighed heavily on her. What type of nonsense is this? She muttered to herself, frustration building inside her. Why should my life be caged just because of how I look? Is that all anyone sees in me? As she walked, lost in thought, her phone rang, pulling it out of her reverie. It was Professor Tom, one of her lecturers. His voice was stern. Amelia, see me in my office immediately. Startled by the abruptness of his tone, Amelia quickened her pace toward the faculty building. Good morning, sir, she greeted, trying to keep her composure. Professor Tom looked up from his desk, his expression serious. How are you, Amelia? I'm fine, sir, thank you, she replied. The professor leaned back in his chair. Amelia, I've called you here to discuss something important. Your presence on this campus has been causing quite a bit of commotion. Amelia furrowed her brow, unsure of where he was going with this. Over the past few months, 6 male students have been attacked, and it's all because of their association with you, Professor Tom continued. Amelia's eyes widened in shock. Sir, I'm so sorry. I don't blame you for what's happening directly, Professor Tom said, softening his tone slightly. You're a good student, and from what I've observed, a good person. But the reality is, your beauty is attracting a lot of men, and they are making trouble with each other, and it's hurting our school's reputation. Amelia felt a lump forming in her throat. Her mind raced. Professor Tom sighed heavily. Amelia, I've thought about this carefully. I'm advising you to consider transferring to another school. It might give you a fresh start and distance you from all the trouble here. Alternatively, you could consider getting married. If you were married, it might keep the men at bay and put an end to this madness. The suggestion of marriage felt like a slap to Amelia's face. Tears welled up in her eyes as she muttered, "Marriage. Please, sir, don't tell my parents about it," she pleaded. Professor Tom gave her a sympathetic look. I understand, Amelia. It's not fair. But the situation is out of control, and we have to think of the safety of everyone involved. I hope you take my advice seriously. Wiping her tears, Amelia nodded weakly. Okay, sir. I'll think about it. Thank you for your advice. As Amelia left the office, her heart felt heavier than ever. The weight of the conversation was crushing her, and now even her education seemed at risk. The world around her seemed more like a cage to her. 2 days later, Amelia fell critically ill and was rushed to the nearest hospital. Her skin had turned pale, and her body was covered with an alarming spread of rashes. The doctors worked quickly to stabilize her, but as the hours passed, the rashes continued to worsen. What started as a few small patches had now spread across her entire body, and within no time, her once beautiful face was also affected. The news of her sudden illness spread like wildfire across the campus. Did you hear about Amelia? The rashes have completely taken over her skin, one student whispered to another. Her face, it's almost unrecognizable now, said another, shaking their head in disbelief. Back at the hospital, Amelia's parents, Jerry and Gloria, were beside themselves with worrying. They could hardly recognize their daughter, as they watched her face changing into something ugly and horrible. Fear tightened around their hearts as they stood helpless by her bedside. How did this happen so suddenly? Jerry muttered, pacing back and forth, his voice thick with anxiety. Gloria, trying to keep herself composed, clutched her husband's hand, her eyes filled with tears. We need to do something. We can't just watch her suffer like this. We need to take her abroad for better treatment. The doctors, however, advised caution. Mr. and Mrs. Jerry, the lead doctor said gently, we understand your concern, but right now, her body needs to go through a natural healing process. Taking her abroad at this stage might do more harm than good. We recommend waiting a few months, letting the treatment run its course, before considering any further medical interventions abroad. Jerry frowned, frustration bubbling inside him. You mean we just have to sit and watch her get worse? We can't do that. The doctor shook his head sympathetically. Her condition is complex, but it's crucial to allow her body time to heal before we take more drastic measures. Reluctantly, Jerry and Gloria agreed, though it pained them to see their daughter suffer. Amelia returned to school after 3 long weeks in the hospital. Her once radiant skin, now marred by her illness, and changed her appearance to something horrible. Amelia tried to maintain her composure as she walked into the lecture hall that morning, with her shoulders held high, but the stares from her classmates were palpable, heavy with shock and curiosity. As she entered the room, everyone's eyes were on her, not in admiration as before, but in silent judgment. Whispers spread like wildfire. And even the lecturer, who was midway through a lesson, paused to glance at her. His gaze lingered a little too long, betraying his pity for the once adored beauty queen. Amelia could feel the weight of his stare, and the room's atmosphere grew even more uncomfortable. When the lecture ended, Amelia stood up, hoping to catch up on the notes she had missed during her absence. She approached a few of her classmates, trying to borrow their notes, but they all avoided her gaze, mumbling excuses as they hurried away. The cold distance stung, but Amelia pressed on. She caught sight of Sonia, her closest friend, leaving the lecture hall, and quickly called out to her. "Sonia, Sonia, wait," Amelia called, her voice desperate as she ran to catch up. Sonia turned slowly, her expression hard. "What is it, Amelia?" she asked, her tone flat. As Amelia moved closer, Sonia instinctively stepped back. "Please, say whatever you need to say from there, don't come too close." Amelia's eyes widened in shock. "Sonia, you too?" Her voice cracked with disbelief. Sonia, looking at her without sympathy, "Yes, Amelia. I think it's time you see things clearly now. For too long, everyone in this school has been living in your shadow. All the guys were obsessed with you, and the rest of us were invisible. Even the ones who were not interested in you used your beauty as a weapon to make us feel inferior." Amelia stood frozen, her heart sinking. She had never realized the resentment her friends harbored toward her. "I didn't know. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry." Sonia cut her off, her voice sharp. "Of course you didn't know, Amelia. You were too busy basking in the attention, while the rest of us had to deal with the fallout. Now that things are different, maybe the rest of us will finally get a chance." Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. The realization that even her closest friend resented her was too much to bear. That first week back at school was nothing short of a nightmare for Amelia. What hurt the most were the mocking laughs that echoed in her ears whenever she passed by a group of students. It was as if the entire school had turned against her, and she had never felt more isolated. One beautiful afternoon, Amelia decided to visit Hilary at his hostel. He had been avoiding her ever since she returned to school, and her calls and messages went unanswered. "If no one wants me around, it shouldn't be Hilary. After all, he's my husband-to-be." On that fateful day, she made her way to his hostel, her heart heavy, filled with hope that Hilary would at least be different. As she approached, one of Hilary's friends noticed her from a distance and quickly rushed inside to warn him. "Hilary, Amelia's here," his friend said, out of breath. Hilary, who had been lounging in his room, frowned. "Tell her I'm not here. Don't let her in." But after a moment of hesitation, he changed his mind. On second thought, he nodded, adjusted his clothes, and made his way outside to face her. Amelia's heart pounded as she saw Hilary emerge from the hostel. He looked different, colder, more distant than she had ever seen him before. As he approached, Amelia smiled brightly. "Hilary," she began, her voice shaky, "I've been trying to reach you. Why haven't you answered my calls? I missed us." Hilary looking down at her with a blank expression. "Amelia, things have changed. We both know that. You're not the same anymore, and honestly, I don't think there's much left to say." Amelia's breath caught in her throat. "Not the same? What do you mean?" "I thought we are engaged," she stammered. "Look," Hilary interrupted, his tone dismissive. "I don't need this drama. I've got enough to deal with, and frankly, you're not worth the trouble anymore. You were beautiful, Amelia, and everyone wanted you. I even fought to ensure you are mine, but now." He shrugged. "You need to look at yourself in the mirror." Tears welled up in her eyes again, but she fought to hold them back. "So that's it. You're just going to throw me away because I'm not beautiful anymore. Is it my fault that I was sick?" Hillary sighed. "Your whole situation is a mess, and I don't want to be involved. You should move on, Amelia, as I have." That weekend, Amelia made the decision to go home, retreating to the comfort of her room as soon as she arrived. She felt the weight of everything that had happened in the past few weeks crushing her spirit. The isolation at school, the cold distance from her friends, and Hillary's cruel rejection had all left her emotionally drained. Later that evening, her father, Jerry, returned from work. As soon as he stepped through the door, his face was tense, his jaw clenched with frustration. Gloria, noticing his mood, sat beside him, hoping to ease the tension by engaging him in conversation. "How was your day, Jerry?" she asked gently, placing a hand on his arm. Jerry sighed heavily, but said nothing, his eyes dark and distant. At that moment, Amelia walked into the living room to greet her father. "Good afternoon, Dad. How was work today?" But instead of the usual warmth she expected, Jerry's face twisted with anger. "I'm not good, Amelia. In fact, I'm furious," he snapped, his voice rising. "You ruined my day. Do you hear me? You spoiled everything." Amelia froze, shock washing over her like a cold wave. Her eyes darted to her mother, who looked equally confused. Gloria placed a calming hand on Jerry's arm, trying to understand his outburst. "What's going on, Jerry? What are you talking about? Amelia just got home today from school. What could she possibly have done?" Jerry's eyes narrowed, his frustration bubbling over as he stood abruptly from his seat. "You want to know what she's done?" he barked, pointing a finger at Amelia. "Chief Bobby withdrew the contract he awarded me 2 days ago. He's been a close partner for years, and today, he spoke to me as if I was nothing. When I called him to ask what went wrong, he practically humiliated me." Amelia stared at her father in disbelief, her heart pounding in her chest. "What, Dad? I don't understand. What does that have to do with me? I haven't even seen Chief Bobby 4 months now." Jerry glared at her, his face red with fury. "It has everything to do with you, Amelia," he shouted. "When I confronted Chief Bobby, he said you were the only reason he's been nice to me. But now that your engagement with his son is off, it means everything has ended." Amelia felt her stomach drop as her father's words sank in. She had known that Chief Bobby and his family had high expectations of her, but she never imagined her appearance would lead to such drastic consequences. Gloria was the first to break the silence, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Chief Bobby cancelled the engagement. Just like that?" she asked, her eyes wide. "I thought he cared for Amelia and would support her through this difficult time. He's been eyeing her for his son since she was 12 years old. How could he just walk away so easily?" Jerry clenched his fists, his anger only growing as he relived the conversation. "I asked him the same thing, Gloria. I was shocked, humiliated, when I pressed him. Do you know what he said?" He paused, his voice dropping to a low, bitter tone. "He said, his son can't stand the sight of Amelia anymore. He called her ugly and horrible, and said that his son deserves someone better, someone more beautiful." Amelia's heart shattered at those words. She had suspected her illness had changed people's perception of her, but to hear it so bluntly, so cruelly, was unbearable. Tears welled up in her eyes as she listened to her father's harsh recounting of the conversation. "Bobby said Amelia is free to marry anyone else now," Jerry continued, his voice full of scorn. "He doesn't care what happens to her anymore. All those years of planning, of securing this alliance, gone, just like that." Amelia's legs felt weak beneath her as she struggled to hold back her tears. Jerry's anger didn't stop there. He turned to Amelia, his eyes full of contempt. "If you don't get yourself back to how you used to be, I swear I'll disown you," he spat. "I didn't raise you to become this embarrassment. I want my daughter back. I can't stand this shame you're bringing to this family." The room fell silent again, the weight of Jerry's words pressing down on everyone. Gloria, though still in shock, glanced at Amelia with a mixture of pity and helplessness. Amelia stood frozen, her father's words echoing in her mind. Without another word, Jerry stormed out of the room. Back in school, Amelia's classmates were discussing her. "Did you notice she seemed unexpectedly calm? Not just calm, but strangely happy, as if nothing happened to her. She still carried herself with the same grace she always had," Armani said with a firm voice. Sonia, watching her from a distance, muttered to a group of friends, "Amelia is just trying to mask her frustration. I don't believe for a second that she can handle her new life. Let's see how long she can keep up with this act." Her friends nodded in agreement, and as they saw Amelia approaching the lecture hall, the group quickly hushed their conversation. One of them whispered mockingly, "Our late beautiful queen is coming." As Amelia entered the room, she felt the eyes of her classmates on her, but didn't let it show. She took her seat quietly, her back straight, pretending not to notice the whispers and sideways glances. The lecture started, and everything seemed to return to normal. About halfway through, however, the door creaked open, and Desmond walked in. Professor Timothy looked up from his lecture notes and eyed Desmond sternly. "Desmond," the professor called out, "why are you just coming in?" Desmond cleared his throat and replied politely, "I was discharged from the hospital yesterday, sir. I'm just resuming back to school today. I'm really sorry for being late." The class erupted in laughter, and Desmond stood there, feeling the mocking eyes on him. The lecturer tried to maintain his composure and not join in the cruel humor, but the students didn't stop. Then, to everyone's surprise, Hilary stood up from his seat, a smug grin on his face. "Behold, Desmond, Amelia's husband," Hilary declared, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The laughter in the room only grew louder, echoing through the lecture hall. Desmond stood frozen, his face flushed with embarrassment. He hadn't expected this kind of humiliation, especially from his classmates. The class continued to mock him, and Desmond struggled to keep his composure, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. After the lecture ended, Desmond stayed seated, quietly gathering his things. He had hoped to see Amelia in class today, since he had not seen her since he had been in the hospital, but he wondered why she was not in class. As he stood up to leave the hall, a familiar voice called out to him, "Desmond, Desmond, wait." He turned around, surprised to see an old woman walking towards him, smiling warmly. Desmond blinked in disbelief. "Hi, madam, so please what's your name? You know mine already." Amelia smiled. "I didn't expect you to recognize me. I have changed a lot. My name is Amelia Jerry." "Amelia," Desmond said, his voice full of shock. "Is this really you?" Amelia smiled and nodded. "Yes, it's me. How have you been, Desmond? I heard about what happened to you with Hilary and his men." Desmond shook his head, still in disbelief. "I've been, well, not so great. I just got discharged from the hospital." "But what about you? You look so different. Did someone hurt you? What happened to you?" He fired off questions, one after the other, concern flooding his voice. Amelia chuckled softly and placed a gentle hand on his arm to calm him down. "I was sick, Desmond," she explained. "I had a terrible illness, and my body broke out in rashes, and later resulted in wrinkles and scales. It was awful, but I'm okay now, recovering slowly. Desmond's expression softened as he looked at her. He could see the vulnerability behind her smile, and it tugged at his heart. He reached out and took her hand gently. "Let's go somewhere quiet," he suggested. "We need to talk." Desmond led her to a quiet bench under a tree on the school grounds, far from the curious eyes of their classmates. The air was cool, and the shade of the tree gave them a little privacy. As they sat down, Desmond turned to her with a serious expression. "Amelia, I'm sorry for everything you've been through. I can't believe how much has changed. But I'm here for you, and I won't turn my back on you, never." Amelia's eyes welled up with tears, but she quickly wiped them away before they could fall. "Thank you, Desmond. You've always been kind to me." Amelia found solace in Desmond's friendship, but their bond wasn't free from challenges. The mockery at school grew more relentless with each passing day. Students avoided them like the plague, unwilling to associate or even share a conversation with either of them. Whenever they walked into the lecture hall or across campus, a chorus of taunts followed them. "Behold, Desmond, Amelia's husband," the guys would chant, their voices dripping with sarcasm. The girls weren't any kinder. "Behold our late beautiful queen," they would sneer, giggling amongst themselves. Despite the harshness of their peers, neither Desmond nor Amelia let the insults affect them anymore. They had grown stronger together, finding comfort in their shared experiences and unbreakable bond. With each passing day, their friendship deepened, and it became clear to both that they could rely on one another through the worst of times. One afternoon, as they sat together under their favorite tree on campus, Desmond's phone rang. He picked up the call with a smile. "Hello, Smith. How are you?" On the other end of the line, Smith's voice was filled with excitement. "I'm fine. Oh, and you?" Desmond chuckled, noting Smith's upbeat tone. "Why are you this happy? What's going on?" Bobby laughed heartily, causing Desmond to raise an eyebrow. "Bro, I just found a beer for the car. The offer is solid, and I think it's going to go through." Desmond's eyes widened, and he couldn't contain his excitement. "For real? Oh my God, Smith, thank you. That's amazing news. Just go ahead with the deal. All I need is the money. I'm praying for a successful surgery." Smith and Desmond chatted a little longer before wrapping up the conversation. As Desmond ended the call, he turned to find Amelia staring at him, her face a mixture of confusion and concern. "What was that all about?" she asked softly. "Which car are you selling? And who's undergoing surgery?" Desmond looked at her, a smile lighting up his face, but also with a seriousness in his voice. "Okay, let me explain everything," he began. "I found a doctor who looked at your picture, Amelia. He told me that with surgery, you could have your beautiful face back. The treatment is expensive, though, but when I heard about it, I knew I had to do something." Amelia listened intently, her heart beginning to race. She had never imagined Desmond would go to such lengths for her. Desmond continued, "I don't have much, but years ago, my uncle gave me an old car when he moved abroad. He asked me to sell it to pay for my school fees, but I kept it all this time. Now, I've decided to sell it. I want to help you, Amelia. I can't stand seeing you go through this shame and pain. I pray the surgery is successful." Amelia was speechless. She stared at Desmond, completely astounded by his selflessness and generosity. He was willing to give up the only valuable thing he had for her, despite the mockery, the turmoil and rejected he had been through for her sake. The weight of his sacrifice hit her like a ton of bricks. Without a word, she stood up abruptly, her heart pounding in her chest. She needed space, time to process everything. "Amelia, wait," Desmond called out, his voice filled with worrying as she began to walk away. "Please, don't go. Let's talk about this." But Amelia didn't turn back. Her emotions were too raw, too confusing. She walked faster, tears welling up in her eyes, unsure of how to process Desmond's grand gesture. Desmond stood frozen for a moment, watching her retreating figure with a sinking heart. He didn't understand why she was walking away. He ran after her, desperation in his voice. "Amelia, please, wait. Don't walk away like this. Let me explain more, please. I didn't mean to hurt you." But Amelia didn't stop. She gently said, "Just leave me alone." The second day in class was abuzz with gossip, and Amelia and Desmond entered separately, a rare sight that did not go unnoticed. Whispers and sideways glances filled the room as students speculated about the apparent rift between the once inseparable pair. Sonia chuckled, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "See, I told you. She would break sooner or later." Even her so-called loving Desmond, the only one who pretended to love her as she is already drifting away. "I bet she withdraw from this school soon." As the gossip swirled through the classroom, Hilary entered, flanked by two of his friends. His presence immediately quieted the room, and he lifted his hand for silence. "May I have your attention, please?" he announced. Hilary clearly enjoying the spotlight. "I've got news straight from Chief Bobby. My father," he began. "My father has asked me to bring home the girl I want to marry, since the one he picked for me." He glanced briefly at Amelia with a smirk, turned, well, let's just say, old and ugly overnight. The students snickered, some glancing mockingly at Amelia, while others straightened up, eager to hear more. Hilary continued, "I promised my father I would come home this weekend with my choice. So, let me introduce to you all my latest catch, Agatha, the most beautiful." Gasps rippled through the room as Hilary's two friends stepped forward, guiding Agatha, Amelia's roommate, to the front of the classroom. Agatha, clearly relishing the attention, moved confidently, her head held high, a broad smile on her face. The entire class looked on in surprise. No one had anticipated his choice. Least of all Amelia, who felt a pang of surprise mixed with confusion. Hilary reached into his pocket and pulled out a small golden ring, sparkling under the classroom lights. He held it up and said, "Agatha, my beautiful one, please marry me." Agatha's smile widened, her face alight with excitement. "I swear, I'll marry you," she exclaimed, barely able to contain herself. "This is a dream come true for me. I was always so jealous of Amelia, especially when you were trying to catch her attention. I never thought this would happen." The class erupted in cheers, clapping, and whistles. Hilary chuckled and added, "I know some of you won't mind being my second wife. But first, let me present Agatha to my parents before deciding on the next. Don't worry, I've got plenty of money to support plenty of brides." The laughter and applause echoed through the classroom as Hilary basked in his audience's reaction. Meanwhile, Amelia's thoughts raced. Her mind was filled with the betrayal of her female friends. She never knew that Agatha, her roommate, has eyes for Hilary. Back at the hostel, Desmond had been calling Amelia repeatedly, anxious to apologize and explain his intentions behind the surgery he had arranged for her. He regretted not discussing it with her beforehand, and could only imagine the shock and hurt she must have felt upon hearing about it. The tension the distance between them is creating is unbearable for Desmond, especially because Amelia's 21st birthday is just 10 days away. And Desmond also hoped he could still be part of her special day to share in her happiness and support her. Meanwhile, at home, Amelia was deep in conversation with her mother, Gloria, about her upcoming birthday plans. "Mom," Amelia said excitedly, I want to celebrate my 21st birthday in the school hall. I want it to be big." Gloria looked at her in surprise. "No, Amelia, that can't happen. No one would come, and we'd only end up a laughingstock," she responded, frowning. Amelia's heart sank, but she pressed on. "Please, Mom, don't say no. I already promised my friends, way before I got sick, that my 21st birthday would be unforgettable, and I want it to be in the school hall. It's my last year in school, and I want to make a memory, something happy." Seeing the determination in her daughter's eyes, Gloria softened, understanding how much this meant to her. She nodded slowly. "All right, Amelia, I'll talk to your father about it. But it won't be easy to convince him." Later that evening, Gloria brought up the topic, as she and Jerry were enjoying a quiet conversation. "Amelia wants to celebrate her birthday in the school hall," she began, gauging his reaction. Jerry's face hardened immediately. "No, absolutely not." He shook his head furiously. "I can't support this, Gloria. I can hardly stand to look at her now, let alone bring people together for some celebration. It would be humiliating for all of us. I won't have it. Honestly, I was already thinking of sending her away, somewhere far from here. Her appearance it disgusts me." Gloria was taken aback by the harshness of his words. She shook her head, her voice dropping to a gentle, pleading tone. "Jerry, the doctors told us to be patient, to give her body time to heal before starting any further treatments. All hope isn't lost. She's going through such a difficult time right now. She needs us, needs to feel loved." Jerry stood up abruptly, his face still clouded with anger. "I hope she does heal, but in the meantime, count me out of her life. I can't support any of this." With that, he walked out, leaving Gloria heartbroken and unsure of what to tell her daughter. As Gloria sat in the empty room, she felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She knew how much the celebration meant to Amelia, and yet she felt torn between supporting her daughter and trying to manage Jerry's anger and disapproval. The news of Amelia's birthday celebration spread rapidly across campus. Many students planned to attend, although not necessarily to celebrate. Some were curious to see her condition in person, hoping to mock her, while others simply thought it would be a way to pass the time on an otherwise uneventful day. The night before the party, Amelia sent a heartfelt text to Desmond. "I apologize for my silence. I regret walking away without an explanation. Please, I specially invite you to my birthday tomorrow. Your presence would mean the world to me." Desmond was so excited when he was reading the message. Amelia also extended an invitation to Hillary. "It would be such an honor to have someone like you attend my party. Having someone of your social standing attend would bring a touch of prestige to my celebration," she wrote, hoping he might put past tensions aside. Hillary, however, reacted with disdain. "Imagine her inviting me to such a pathetic, lowly event. As if I could even stand the sight of her now," he scoffed. One of his friends saw an opportunity and suggested, "You should go, Hillary. Attend the party, and while you're there, announce your engagement to Agatha. We'll make it the highlight of the event and steal all the attention. That would really ruin her day." A grin spread across Hillary's face as he considered it. "That's a great idea. She regrets ever inviting me." With that plan in mind, Hillary and his friends prepared to attend Amelia's party, not to celebrate, but to overshadow her in the most hurtful way possible. It was Amelia's birthday, and the campus was abuzz with excitement and whispers. To everyone's surprise, a line of sleek, high-end cars began arriving at the school hall, drawing gasps from the crowd and even a look of amazement from Amelia herself. Each car seemed grander than the last, filling the space with an air of unexpected prestige that caught everyone off guard. The party was already in full swing when, almost halfway through the event, Jerry arrived with his influential friends. The master of ceremonies quickly took the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest in our midst. Let's give a big round of applause for Mr. Jerry, the father of our celebrant." Polite applause filled the room, though Jerry's expression remained distant, his face betraying little joy for his daughter's big day. As the celebration continued, the doors opened once more, this time revealing Hillary, his father Chief Bobby, and Agatha. They strode confidently to the high table, and whispers rippled through the crowd as the audience murmured in disbelief. Seeing Hillary and the renowned Chief Bobby, along with Agatha on his arm, made everyone question their motives. The MC, caught off guard, but quick to adapt, cleared his throat and announced, "Another surprise. We are honored by the presence of Chief Bobby and his son Hillary, friends of the family. Let's give them a warm welcome." After a round of applause, the MC continued with an air of excitement. "And now, before we hear a few words from our esteemed guest Chief Bobby, our celebrant has requested a moment to address you all." Amelia walked up to the podium in an elegant gown, radiating poise despite the scattered laughter and mocking whispers. Some in the crowd jeered, "Behold our late beautiful queen," while Jerry shook his head in disappointment. Gloria, however, clapped enthusiastically, encouraging her daughter. Taking a deep breath, Amelia began, "When I promised to celebrate my 21st birthday here, I never imagined it would be under these circumstances. But seeing you all here means the world to me." She paused, her gaze calm. "First of all, I want to celebrate myself. My first 21 years have taught me so many lessons. And I think that's the best gift I have ever gotten. Secondly, I want to celebrate someone who has stood by me through everything. Even if you don't care for my appearance, I hope you'll celebrate someone who has truly loved me for who I am. He was my friend when I was celebrated for my beauty, and he's still my friend now. Please join me in welcoming my best friend, Desmond, to the podium." The crowd chanted, "Behold Desmond, Amelia's husband," as Desmond joined her on the podium, giving her a supportive smile. Amelia continued, "A few days ago, Desmond sold his only possession, an old car, to pay for a surgery to help restore my face. I walked away that day because I wanted to celebrate my birthday like this, as I am now. Desmond, thank you for seeing me for more than my appearance." Desmond took her hands and spoke warmly. "Amelia, thank you for all you've done for me during my time in school. You stood by me, helped me with the menial jobs, like sweeping, washing and more of such, that I was doing in order to earn myself a living, despite your social class, and never looked down on me. Your kindness and strength mean everything." Then, kneeling before her, he asked, "Amelia, will you give me the privilege of being your husband and your forever friend? Will you marry me?" Amelia, with a smile, replied, "Yes, Desmond, I would be honored to marry you." The crowd erupted, "Behold Desmond, Amelia's husband." They clapped, they laughed at both, the echoes filled the hall. The yelling was interrupted when Jerry, Amelia's father, stood up abruptly and walked to the stage in fury. "Yes, you can go ahead and marry her. I really want her to be out of my house. She has caused a lot of damages to my life and business. Amelia, you are a disgrace to me. I think I can leave this hall now." The crowd erupted, again in laughter. Amelia raised her hand to quiet the murmuring crowd. "Please wait, Dad. I want you to witness this. There's something else I need to share," she began, her voice steady. "I'm sorry if what I'm about to reveal will have hurt anyone, but I had to go to great lengths to make the right choice. The truth is, I was never sick. The body rashes, the illness, the wrinkles and scales on my body and face were all acting. As she spoke, she reached up and, with a graceful motion, pulled off the mask covering her face. Gasps rippled through the audience as they stared at Amelia's radiant, unblemished face. Jerry and Gloria looked on in shock, unable to hide their astonishment. Chief Bobby and Hillary were equally stunned, their jaws dropping. Desmond blinked, utterly taken aback, still processing what had just happened, as he walked back to the podium. Amelia turned to him, smiling gently. "Desmond, thank you for being genuine and for loving me unconditionally. You have no idea how much that means to me." Desmond stepped forward. "Well, Amelia, it seems like today is full of surprises," he said, pausing as the crowd leaned in closer. "I have something to confess as well. I'm not the poor student you believed I was. My father is Mr. Salima, owner of Saliso Group, the same company that manufactures Saliso cars. The owner of Saliso Rice Farms, and also Saliso Gas and Oil. The same Salima that was also appointed Minister for Works last year." A shocked applause echoed through the hall as the audience took in Desmond's revelation. Desmond continued, "I chose to live as an ordinary student, so I could find true love here, where no one would know me. I can't tell you how glad I am that I found that in you, Amelia." He turned to face her fully, sincerity shining in his eyes. "Thank you for seeing beyond what everyone else thought mattered." Suddenly, as if on cue, Bobby and Hillary rose to leave, their faces flushed with embarrassment. But before they could slip out, two police officers stepped forward, blocking their way. "Hillary, Bobby," one officer announced, "you're under arrest for attempted murder, related to your attack on Desmond Salima several months ago." Chief Bobby's face went pale. "No, this can't be. Mr. Salima is my employer. I didn't know Desmond was his son. Please, let me speak to him personally. We can work this out." The officers shook their heads firmly. "We're here on direct orders from Mr. Salima himself," one replied. Hillary's face fell as he was led away in handcuffs, leaving the hall in silence. Jerry, who had been watching in a mixture of confusion and regret, finally walked up to Amelia. "Amelia, I'm sorry. I didn't understand, and I let you down when you needed me the most." Amelia gave him a steady look and replied, "I disguised myself to find true love. I never knew that some of my female friends are my enemies. I was astounded when I also discovered that I have been with a fake dad all my life. I am fatherless. My real father died when I needed him the most. I don't need apologies. I have no father." With that, she turned back to Desmond. The crowd erupted into applause, celebrating Amelia's strength and the love she'd found against all odds. "Behold, Desmond, Amelia's husband."
"Behold, Desmond, Amelia's husband."
"Behold, Desmond, Amelia's husband."
Hello besties! What's your take on this story? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below in your own language, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet.
Make sure to check out the description for more exciting stories on this channel, such as
The Poor Billionaire.
Thanks for watching. God bless you. I love you all.